afternoon, everyone, and thank you for watching BBC News. Over a quarter of million of protesters have been taking to the streets of Kiev in Ukraine for weeks now, setting up barricades to keep out riot police and relentlessly demanding change. What led to this conflict? We'll come back with our special guest today intervening for BBC News. Thank you. Ms. Hoover, thank you for being with us today. So what led to this conflict? Can you explain us? You are a historian, you are specialized in it, so tell us more, please.
Well, thank you for having me, Ms. Bernard. So to know and to understand the origins of the conflict, we will first of all look at an ethno-linguistic map of Ukraine to understand the division. So here we have our map. So in red we can clearly see the mostly Ukrainian-speaking part of Ukraine, which is mostly pro-European. And here, counted in with the blue line, we have the mostly Russian-speaking and of Russian ethnic population, which is mostly pro-Russian. Now, to come to the origins of the conflict, we have to go back in mid-August 2013. Indeed, in response to the ongoing Ukrainian negotiations with the EU to sign the association agreement that should have been signed in November, Russia started blockade on imports of Ukraine, and thus the Ukrainian government had no choice but to suspend the negotiation with the European Union on the 21st of November 2013. And this has led to many manifestations. On the same evening, a journalist proposed a reunion of all pro-European activists on the Maidan Square. This initiative was followed by 2,000 people that gathered on the same evening. And this started to take more and more proportions, and in the following weeks and months, this whole rally became a very, very huge protest called the Euromaidan. On this map, we can see where the different protests took place, mainly in the western pro-European part of Ukraine, but very mainly in the capital Kiev on the Independence Square. 4 days after the protest started, on the 28th of November, the EU tries to convince President Yanushchenko to sign the association agreement. But he refuses, claiming that the agreement threatens the country's economy and security and could lead to billions of losses for Ukraine's economy. On the next day, more and more disappointed citizens gathered on the Maidan Square, and the police then started to try to prevent the expansion of the protest and became violent. On the 17th of December, President Yanushchenko and the Russian President Vladimir Putin decided to sign an agreement. This agreement stated that Russia is willing to buy off 50 billion of Ukraine's debts and to reduce gas prices. Following this agreement, the protests became more and more vivid. And this increased when, between the 16th and the 23rd of January, the Ukrainian parliament passed a restrictive anti-protest law as the clashes started to turn deadly. Protesters then started to storm regional government offices in the western part of Ukraine. Following this, on the 28th of January, the Prime Minister of Ukraine resignates. To reply to the violence that happened on the Maidan Square, the EU and the USA decided to impose personal sanctions against Ukrainian officials responsible for those shootings. Finally, Yanushchenko in February will agree to sign an agreement with the opposition and promises an early presidential election. However, this is not enough for the protesters. They demand Yanukovych's resignation and arrest. The protests do not stop and continue. Finally, on the 22nd of February, Yanushchenko, fearing for his security, decides to fly and to flee to Russia.
Oh.
So now, Ms. Bernard, we're in a very critical situation. Today, on the 28th of February, pro-Russian gunmen seized key buildings in the Crimean capital, Simferopol. And there we see that the situation is escalating in the eastern part of Ukraine, where the pro-Russian sentiment is very, very important.
Thank you, Mrs. Huber, for helping us to have a clear mind now on this situation. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Data coverage is an important key aspect in the Ukrainian conflict. I'm here with Mr. Beregoy, who is an independent journalist in Ukraine. Thank you for being here, Mr. Beregoy.
Hello, Mr. Baron. So what I want to say is that the Russian media represented the conflict in a completely biased manner. For example, they say that the crisis was instigated by Russian government. They said that Euromaidan was controlled by ultranationalist, fascist and neo-Nazi groups. Also, when we had a new government in Ukraine, they said that the government is illegitimate and it's neo-Nazist government, and they want to take away all the rights of Russian speakers, to ban Russian language, and to force the Ukrainizations of the country. So also we saw that in their coverage, Russian media, they used fake information, like for example they used screenshot footages from Euromaidan saying that there is something going wrong in Sevastopol.
Very good for your intervention. I can conclude that the Russian media coverage has shaped and fed the conflict, and now we shall go and see what is the position of the Russian government. Thank you for being with us today. Now with Mrs. Ivanovna, a member of the cabinet of the Minister of Economy in Russia. So can you tell us what is the position of the Russian government on this conflict, please?
Well, thank you very much for being here. It's important for us to stress that Russia has always supported the sovereign nation in their political choice. We have had very long negotiations with President Yanukovych about the custom union with Eurasian countries. We believe that the adoption of all the European Union norms, being sanitary, technical, veterinary norms, they will have a negative impact on the trade and the investments dynamic in Eurasia. So the European Union cannot just easily squeeze out all the other members of those customs unions, and we have had a very long relationship with Ukraine. So we believe that we are its natural ally, and we would like to show the Ukrainian people that we support and that we listen to us. But it's very important to understand that this critical situation that is actually taking place here in Ukraine can only be resolved in a peaceful negotiation.
Thank you for being with us, Mrs. Ivanovna. And now with the High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Mr. Barros, thank you for being with us today. Please tell us about the position of the European Union.
Well, Mrs. Barnard, thank you for receiving me. We must say that we obviously condemn Russia's decision to support the pro-Russian forces in Ukraine. We believe that this is an unwarranted escalation of tensions, and I therefore call the Russian Federation not to endorse this conflict and to promote its views in a more peaceful way. We are afraid that in the next days the escalation of violence will follow, and so we are going to keep monitoring the situation, and we would like to add that any explicit threats of military actions in the rest of Ukraine's territory are a direct violation of international law, including the UN Charter. So I call all sides to decrease the tensions, and we will keep surveilling the situation. The unity, sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine must be respected at all times and by all sides, and any violation of these principles shall not be acceptable. Ukraine is a neighborhood country that has made a lot of reforms in the last years in order to comply with European standards, and so we owe them to keep an open eye in the situation and what will follow in the next few months.
Thank you, Mr. Barros. So, what will happen next? The question is on everybody's mind, and we'll come back soon on BBC with other guests intervening in the few weeks coming. Please stay on BBC. We're going to come back after these few ads, and we will have a presentation on Moldova. Thank you for being with us.